Good morning. Welcome to the Housing, Land Use, Environment, Transportation Committee, otherwise known as Hewlett. This is our regular meeting, having been scheduled for August 16, 2018 at 10 a.m. and it's time to get started. So I'm calling the meeting to order, and we will first announce that we do have a quorum. Supervisor Wasserman and I are both here, all two of us. And then turn to my right on the dais and just ask each of the folks up here to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Rob Eastwood, County Planning Manager.
Good morning. My name is Harry Freitas, Director of Roads and Airports.
Joe Zintek, Director, Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency.
Don Rocha, Interim Director, Parks and Recreation Department.
Thank you.
Then Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive.
And Steve Mitra, Assistant County Counsel.
Great. Thank you all for that. It helps, I think, that it's clear to everyone during the meeting who's here, who's speaking, and who's responding. We're going to go to item 2 on the agenda, which is public comment. Let me just actually make a suggestion here. We have one speaker card on essentially items 8 and 9 combined, Catherine Potter, and we want to respect that. There is a recommendation to hold those items, and maybe what we can do is just take item 3 before item 2, if that's okay with you, Supervisor Wasserman, so we can discuss what's going to be heard today, what's not going to be heard today. We can come back to public comment then, and if it makes more sense to have Ms. Potter speak on public comment as opposed to an item that's not going to be heard, we can do it that way. That meets everyone's reasonableness test. So item 3 is the consent calendar and changes to committee's agenda. There's not a lot left that's not on consent or being requested to be held. But Supervisor Wasserman?
Chair Cortese, I would make the motion. Your speaker card you said is on 8 and 9?
It is on 8 and 9.
And yes. I would make the motion to put 4 and 5 on consent as well. We hear our speakers, and then I think we're done.
Right, and
the rest
to be
holds.
clear, since it's not listed on consent already, is the lease with Jacobs Farm Del Cabo, which is a modification of terms, basically, the action would result in that going to the Board of Supervisors next, correct? Okay, yep. And the renewals for revenue quarterly report, I would say, is well done, but very self-explanatory as well in terms of
agreed. But before
basics. So
before approving that consent, you said you had a speaker card or two. But after that, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, and we could also take the speakers at this time. So the recommendation,
yes,
not all speakers, but the non-public comment speakers. So, Catherine, if you want to speak now, we do allow an opportunity on this item 3, which is the discussion about the agenda itself, what's going to be held, what's going to be on consent, what's going to be discussed. As you just heard, we would basically move the remaining discussion items as recommended to consent, and then the items that you're requesting to speak to, the administration is recommending a hold, which you're probably aware, which at this point the committee's what I hear Supervisor Wasserman saying is let's move those recommendations, let's move the hold, the consent, and so forth. But we can have you speak in pro or con on what we're doing process-wise. I mean, you basically have a couple minutes, actually 3 minutes, to speak on anything pertinent to the agenda overall.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Supervisors Cortese and Wasserman. I'm Catherine Poulter with Stanford University, and I'm speaking to items 8 and 9.
I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
Oh, that's okay. Since we attended your last committee meeting on June 21st, we've been working very hard on an affordable housing proposal that can deliver housing units much faster than it can occur under an ordinance. We submitted our affordable housing proposal almost 3 weeks ago as part of a development agreement application, and we're eager to continue our conversations about that. A development agreement is the legally appropriate tool to obtain affordable housing benefits that are specific to a single applicant. We ask that you support staff's request to delay consideration of the ordinances And we further request that you support further exploration of Stanford's proposal to provide affordable housing now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else here that wants to speak on the consent calendar? Actually, the item's called approval of consent calendar and changes to committee's agenda, item 3. If not, we can entertain a formal motion at this point. Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you, Chair Cortese. I would move that we put add 4 and 5 to the consent calendar, which is currently 10 through 16, and that would be my motion under consent.
Okay, that motion's acceptable. Let me just also acknowledge that item 6, it says item to be heard at September evening meeting, date to be determined. I believe there is a date that has been submitted or scheduled through the clerk
17th.
through the various offices, September 17th.
At 6.
Here at 6 p.m. Meeting's targeted for about 2 hours, although we'll see how that goes. But that will be formally published and noticed for members of the audience or anyone who is listening in who's interested in that item, which is the Roads and Airport Department item relating to the airport study. So I just want to be clear on that as to what's happening with that. And I think that would be enough disclosure on item 3. So we'll just show that as a unanimous vote at this point, and the clerk will record that. We'll go back to item 2 now, which is general public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Scott Largent has requested to speak, and Scott, since we have less than 5 speakers, or 5 or fewer speakers, we're going to set the clock for 3 minutes. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Scott Largent. First off, I'm sorry about last meeting. I at the housing meeting here. I got frustrated, got a little upset, started chewing people out. I know that's not appropriate, but I'm just getting frustrated. The route I take with the bus and the areas I go downtown, and I'm just watching people die. And growing up, we were supposed to do the right thing. When you see somebody hurting, or you see somebody, you see somebody crossing the road, you help them. You see someone's car break down, you help them push the car. You help people. That's just how I was raised. And a group of people that I can't even get near because I was a methamphetamine addict, and most of the homeless community is high on drugs. I just feel helpless. I feel like my hands are tied. So I feel coming in here and trying to get people to pay attention that these people need housing. And it was the main thing. We talked a long time ago about motorhomes, an area to go. We have land. We have money. You go farther out, kind of in your area out there, Mike Wasserman, I mean, we could have a big drug rehab, we could have a big mental institution, and we could have a big RV lot. And we can kind of get all these people into one area and kind of vet out the ones that are, can be, rehabilitated, and the ones that can't, they've been on drugs so long, we got to figure out a way to kind of control them, house them, monitor them, and just not let them just, die downtown. And it's starting to get unsafe. It's really starting to get unsafe down there. I'm here every day. I walk a lot. I've been attacked now downtown about 4 times, and I have a background in martial arts, so I can just tie somebody up and hold them on the ground. But a lot of these meth heads, the methamphetamines that they're using, the raw chemicals coming out of Mexico are not like what they would normally manufacture here. It's making these people go crazy. And it did the same with me. When I stayed on it for about a year, I went absolutely nuts. So when are we going to figure something out like that? And I know I kind of keep coming in here and pushing it. You came up with some amazing ideas, Dave, amazing ideas. You went to places, you saw all this stuff. Why does government have to work so slow? In another year, all these people are going to be dead. In the areas where I lived, I sit in the parking lots, like in my grandmother's car. I can't go see these people, but I watch them dying. And it just gets so sad, and you see them like zombies going up and down Stevens Creek, and it is sad. So what do we do to figure that out? We got property out there. Start stacking these. And the people that, hell, if they go through drug rehab 10 times, maybe it's the 11th time that they get clean. I mean, maybe we can start putting money into some of these rehab facilities and get vouchers to send people to rehab. If we don't want to do it ourselves, house them, have a rehab, farm it out. Let's farm it out. Let's send them to some high-end place down in Los Angeles, the big rehabs down there, and start getting these people clean. We have the money to do it. We really do. So thank you. I apologize for last time, guys.
Okay, we understand, and thank you, and we appreciate the amends. We also want you to know we have short memories, so thank you for coming forward. So that then takes us to the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you to the clerk for queuing me up. Made a couple moves there. I was self-doubting as to what we had left, but we have nothing but the adjournment left at this point. Obviously, we're going to have a very busy September, but we look forward to that. I'm sure robust discussions on the items that are moving forward, as well as what's going to the Board of Supervisors. So we'll see everyone again as the meeting is noticed for what we expect to be September 17th, as well as the regular meeting of Hewlett, which will still occur on September 20th here unless there's some subsequent change. Yes, Sylvia.
Just a clarification for the special Hewlett meeting on the evening of September 17th. Is it your desire to have the full complement of staff or just roads and airports, myself and council?
We'll trust your judgment on that, but I would think the latter. Yeah, we certainly don't want to tie people up who aren't going to have some direct influence on that. I do believe, for again, trusting your judgment, that there, and I think you know this, that so there'll be some crossover into planning issues, at least in terms of the public comment. I mean, this is what we've heard from people in community meetings and so forth. So I'm not sure who necessarily would need to be there, but somebody who can at least help answer, basic questions about land use that come up relative to public comment, in addition to roads and airports. So thank you everyone for cooperating with that. I think we're going to, Supervisor Wasserman and I think would agree on the fact that we can't have an indefinite amount of public meetings, formal public meetings of the committee, and there's already been community meetings, but we're trying to accommodate the request to have at least one evening public meeting where folks can come in and formally address the committee on that topic. Thank you, and I think we understand. Sylvia, did you want to add anything? I'm not requesting that necessarily on the on the Stanford situation. It's pretty clear that that's coming back in September. Great, thank you. Okay, we are adjourned then.